The alibi. She memorized too well. Hey, night listener. Tonight, we enter the shadows. A quiet wind crawls under the city's skin. Rain ticks against the windows like someone gently trying to be forgotten. Down below, under a dim street lamp that flickers every third second, the reflection of your breath dances on the wet pavement like a ghost looking for its body. You're not alone tonight. You know that. You've known it for a while. If this story found you, maybe it's because you've been followed too. So, before we vanish into this mystery, like the video and subscribe only if you can handle the truth buried beneath the lies. Tell me where you're listening from: city, forest, country road, and whether you're chasing the thrill, the justice, or the truth that lives in between. Now lock your doors, take a deep breath, and follow me into the dark. She sits across from you at the kitchen table, still, too still. Her hands cradle a mug she doesn't sip from. Steam curls upward, unnoticed, her eyes green, or maybe gray, depending on the light. Don't blink enough. She's told the story 3 times now. The same words, same sequence, same breaks for breath. I got home at 8:32. I made chamomile tea. I watched the end of that cooking show, the one where they yell at the chefs. I showered at 9:10, slept by 9:30. You nod, but you've heard confessions before, and the ones that sound too clean are usually the ones scrubbed with bleach. You ask her again what time she got home. She doesn't hesitate. 8:32, not 8:31. No, not 8:33. A flicker in her pupils. No one remembers time with surgical accuracy, not unless they rehearsed it. She shifts in her seat, not nervous, prepared. That's worse. You glance down at the page in front of you. Her handwriting, neat, consistent. The kind of neat that comes from someone who wants you to know she's calm. But there's a pressure behind the pen. Strokes, like every looped G and crossed teeth is hiding teeth. You sip your own coffee, cold, bitter, honest. She clears her throat. Says, I already told Detective Grant everything. Twice. That's why I'm here. You reply. To hear it a third time. Her jaw tightens, just for a moment. Then she softens. You think I'm lying. You don't answer. But she does, with a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. I'm not. You knew, but pretended you didn't. There's a ticking clock on the wall. Old analog, brass frame, second hand, jumps in half skips. You wonder how long it's been off, because time doesn't seem to move right in this place. You glance at her phone on the counter, face down, charging. You remember what the lab said. A text was sent from it at 8:37. I'm home, all safe. To the victim. He never opened it, because 5 minutes later, someone drove a carving knife into his chest. Once. Just once. Clean. Intentional. Not rage. Not panic. Precision. You ask her again. Did you text anyone that night? She shakes her head. I was tired. Just tea and TV. You nod slowly and circle her phone on your pad. You look up. Her smile fades. You point at the untouched mug. Still hot, you say, but your story's starting to cool. She opens her mouth to respond. But behind her, in the hallway mirror, something shifts. Not her reflection, yours, but the you in the mirror is leaning forward, just a little closer, as if it heard something you missed. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones, especially the ones with perfect alibis. A phone, left out of place. She leaves the room to get more tea. You wait 3 full seconds, then rise. You head for the counter where her phone sits. It's locked, naturally, but not wiped, and the lock screen shows a time that feels off. 39 impatiente pe. That was the timestamp on the text to the victim. Not 8:32 like she claimed she arrived. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You flipped the phone over. A faint smudge on the bottom left edge, almost missed under the glare of the overhead kitchen light. You run your sleeve over it gently. Blood, dried, almost erased. You look down the hallway. She hasn't returned yet. You pocket a tissue. Dab the corner of the screen. The tissue turns pink. She told the detective she never touched him, never went near the scene, never even left her apartment after dark. But someone always forgets to clean the edges. Her footsteps echo from the hall. You sit again, calm. She returns. 2 mugs now. 1 for you, 1 for her. She smiles, like nothing's changed, but her eyes search your face. Did you move the phone? She doesn't ask, but the tension in her knuckles says she's considering it. You take the mug. She sips this time. You don't. Because you don't trust her to serve you anything that doesn't come with a twist. You glance at the clock. Still ticking. Still wrong. You ask again. You sure you didn't use your phone after you got home? She frowns, soft and practiced. No, I set it down, plugged it in, and forgot about it. Forgot. You glance down at her hands, a faint line where a ring used to be. Your ex. He didn't stop by. She laughs. A brittle thing that tries to sound natural. He hasn't spoken to me in over a year. But the record says he called her last week, twice. And the voicemail you recovered, the one she deleted, was from him. Timestamped 8:16 p.m., 16 minutes before the murder. The voice was frantic, not threatening, desperate. Just talk to me. Okay, just tell me if you are going to do something stupid. Please. You printed a transcript. Slide it across the table. Her face hardens when she sees it. This is illegal, she says. Not if it was already in the case file. It wasn't. You shrug. We both know that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Her hands tremble slightly now. She pushes the mug aside. You notice the stain on the handle. Lipstick. But she wasn't wearing any when you arrived. She put it on before she brought the tea. Why? To make the scene look domestic safe innocent, or to distract everyone live, especially the quiet ones, especially the ones who rehearse. You stand and excuse yourself. Pretend to take a call in the hallway. You pass the mirror again. This time your reflection isn't leaning. It's walking away, backwards, smiling. You glance back at her. She's watching you from the doorway, holding the phone now. She knows. And now, so do you. The smudge behind the mirror. You tell her you need the bathroom. She points down the hall. Second door on the left, she says, polite as ever. You pass the kitchen again. The mugs are still warm, but hers is closer to the edge now. Shifted when she picked up the phone. Probably instinct. Probably defense. You step into the bathroom and shut the door quietly. Everything in here looks curated, neutral, clean, a life prepared for inspection. The mirror is wide, spotless, Windex clear, but your reflection's eyes are off, too alert, too awake, like they're watching you from a few seconds ahead. You stare for a moment too long, and then you tilt the glass. It's hinged. You open it slowly. Behind the mirror, on the wall, bare plaster and dust, and just at the bottom edge, a smear of dried blood, dark brown, low enough to miss unless you're looking for it, high enough that someone stood here, maybe facing the mirror, maybe pressed into it. You glance down at the vanity, a bottle of glass cleaner, new sponge, disposable gloves in a plastic bag, not hidden, just conveniently placed. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You reach for the gloves, snap them on, and scrape gently at the smear with the edge of a tissue. It flakes, dry and stubborn. You check her trash can, nothing but tissues, all white. She cleaned everything except the part she forgot she touched before she wiped her hands. You take out your phone, snap a photo. There's a shadow in the reflection. Brief. You freeze the image. Zoom. A figure just behind your shoulder. Not her, not you. The victim, standing there, looking into the mirror. At the exact height the blood smudge rests. You rewind. That's not possible. You were alone. You are alone. You step back. The shower curtain is drawn. It wasn't. When you entered, you open it slowly. The tub is empty, but the air feels heavy, wet, weighted like after something gasps its last breath. You glance at the tiled wall behind the tub. Another faint mark, 4 digits, traced faintly in something rust-colored and dampened by steam residue. Then 43, the official time of death. You exit the bathroom, calm, collected. She's on the couch now, scrolling through her phone. Too calm, too composed. The TV is on, low volume. A home improvement show with happy music. You sit beside her. She doesn't look at you, but says, "Everything okay?" You nod. "Your mirror's beautiful." You say. She smiles thinly. "It came with the apartment. Some things always do." You reply. You glance at her phone. The lock screen shows 8:43 P in Demonam. Again, not the current time, the saved time, the frozen minute. "It's a nice place," you say. "Hard to believe anything bad ever happened here." She turns to you, and that smile still doesn't touch her eyes. You'd be surprised what people forget to see. You want to ask her what she remembers, but you're not sure you're ready for her answer. Everyone lies, especially the ones who clean the mirror, but forget to clean behind it. The photograph that shouldn't it exist. You leave her apartment just after midnight. The air bites harder than you expect. The street is too quiet. You don't realize how loud her silence was until you're away from it. You sit in your car, engine off, phone on your lap. You scroll through the photos you took. Mirror, blood smear, the faint 8:43 scrawled into tile like a secret death certificate. And then you find it, the one you didn't take. You pause. It's a digital photo, time-stamped 2 days ago, in 38 p.m. You're not sure how it ended up in your phone, but you're in it. Standing outside her apartment building, in the background, a woman wearing a hood, leaning against a lamppost. Her face is in shadow, but her stance is too familiar. It's her, the suspect, but the timeline is wrong. She swore she was home by 8:32, alone, showering, making tea. You zoom in, enhance what little there is. The streetlight's reflection hits her phone screen just right. The screen reads, "Cam, Year 1, recording." She wasn't alone. She was filming. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You try to locate the photo's origin. File details say it was sent from an encrypted messaging app. You've never installed that app. You check the sender ID. Just a name. Silence. You try to open it. The app crashes. Twice. You look back up toward her window. The light is off now. But in the faint sheen of the glass, you see a camera lens aimed downward. Your car. You drive 3 blocks before pulling over. Park. Breathe. You upload the photo to your secured archive. Backup. Offline drive. Paper trail. You don't want this one to vanish. You knew it wasn't over when she smiled without meaning it. But this is deliberate. She was filming something, or someone. Your phone buzzes. New message from an unknown number. No text, just another image. The same photo, but this time, your face is crossed out in red ink. You check the clock on your dash. 8:43 p.m. Same frozen time. Your hands begin to sweat. You hear a whisper behind you. You spin. The back seat is empty, but the smell faintly citrus, familiar hearty. You open the door, stumble out, look around. No one. You glance at your rear windshield. A fingerprint streaks the glass. You draw closer. It's smeared in reverse. From inside, you were alone, weren't you? You grab your phone again. Open your recorder app. You play back the last 30 minutes of ambient recording for the first 20 silence. Then, a voice, yours. She wasn't supposed to be there. Followed by another voice, hers. No one is, until it's too late. You grip the steering wheel like it might disappear next. This photo isn't just evidence, it's a message. And you don't know who sent it. Or worse, why it looks like your alibi needs covering too. The clock that ran backward. You don't sleep. You drive home on muscle memory. Not sure if you're returning to your apartment or just circling the scene. The photo, the one you didn't take, is still on your phone. You saved it in 5 places, printed a copy, emailed it to yourself. But every time you look, something small shifts. First, it was the red X over your face. Then, the background. Now, the clock in the window behind her reads on 38. The first time you check, you blink. Now it reads 8:32. You compare it to your original screenshot, one you printed less than an hour ago. They're different. Same photo, same grain, same light. But time has gone backward. You drive to the building with the visible clock, a laundromat, 2 doors down from her apartment, fluorescent lit. Close this late. You shine your flashlight through the glass. There, above the door, the same clock from the photo. It ticks normally now. 8:02 p.m. You turn back to your printout. In letter 38, 8:32, 8:02. What kind of evidence rewrites itself? You knew, but pretended you didn't. Inside the laundromat, there's a bulletin board cluttered with lost dog flyers and faded job postings. But one item is new, freshly pinned, bright red paper, a photo of Camille, the victim, smiling. Not the police file photo, one you've never seen before. Someone captured her weeks before the murder. Same scarf, same coat as the night she died. Someone knew what she would wear. You pry it off the corkboard, turn it over. 4 numbers written in black ink. 8:43 always. 8:43, the fixed point, the true time. The photo on your phone pings, it's changed again. Now the clock behind her reads 8:16. The same time the voicemail from her ex was left. The timeline is unspooling or being rewound. Your phone vibrates. Another message from silence. Not everything forwards is truth. Some guilt rewinds. You close your eyes. The laundromat hums behind the glass. Fluorescent lights buzzing like a swarm of whispers. You think of her alibi. The way she recited it, not like she remembered it, but like she memorized it. Because maybe the truth wasn't in what she said. Maybe it's in what she's practiced forgetting. You drive back to her building. Park down the block this time. Wait. And just before 8:43 p.m., the lights in her apartment flicker. Only for a moment. You look down at your watch. 8:43. You look up and see yourself reflected in her window. But you're still in your car. You blink. Now the window is dark, empty. The message on your phone updates. Live text feed. Did you forget what you were doing that night too? And beneath it, a live playback of your own phone's GPS history. You were near her building at 8:42 p.m. You freeze. You scroll back. You were across the street for 6 minutes. You don't remember that. You told the detective you were home by then. You've told yourself that for weeks. But now you're not sure. What if the clock isn't broken? What if you are? Everyone lies, especially the ones who think time is on their side, especially the ones who think they watched it all from the outside. A glove in the freezer. Your hands are shaking by the time you reach your front door. The key sticks. The lock resists. You feel watched, and not in the paranoid way, but the certain way. The way a mouse knows the cat's already inside. You get in. Deadbolt turns. You exhale, then stop cold. The refrigerator door is open, just slightly. A crack. You didn't leave it that way. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You approach slowly. Every step across the kitchen tile is a whisper on a crime scene. The light inside flickers when you pull the door open. And there, nestled between a bag of frozen peas and a box of baking soda, is a black leather glove, crisp with frost. The tip stiff, folded neatly, like it's waiting. You stare at it. You don't reach in yet. You grab tongs, slide the glove out and set it on a paper towel. It doesn't take long for the frost to melt. That's when you notice the stain, not on the outside, on the inside cuff. A bloom of dark red, blood, still frozen in the lining. You put on latex gloves, flip it inside out. A tag stitched into the linings. Cooper, property of evidence, locker 8. You nearly drop it. You know that name. Detective Cooper Camille's original case investigator. He died 2 weeks ago. Slipped in the station's garage. Head trauma. Ruled accidental. But this glove wasn't in the report. You check your records. Evidence item 48A. Black leather glove. Recovered from apartment stairwell. Marked as lost in the transfer. You hold it up to the light. Inside the lining, scrawled in pen, he's watching her again. Not watched. Not past tense. Present. You check your windows. Curtains closed. You double check. Still your skin knows you're not alone. You throw open the freezer again. Something else is tucked behind the peas. A cassette tape, unlabeled. You slide it into the old player on your desk. It clicks. Then whirs. Then silence. Then breathing. Heavy. Rhythmic. Wet. Then a voice. Yours. I told her not to answer the door. Your stomach tightens. She said it didn't matter. That she knew how it ended. A second voice. Hers. Then, you should have stayed away. The tape clicks. Ends. You rewind. The voices stay the same. Your voice. Her voice. But neither of you remembers saying any of it. You check the timestamp on the side of the glove beneath the stitched ID, a laundry tag, dry cleaned, dated on 44 p.m., 1 minute after the murder, 1 minute after the clocks freeze, 1 minute after her alibi ends. You check your freezer again. No frost on the shelves, no ice buildup, because something cold has already replaced it. Doubt. Everyone lies. Especially the ones who find evidence in their own kitchens. Especially the ones who used to believe they were the investigator. But this glove didn't end up here by accident. It was placed. And whoever did it knows where you live. The man with the scarred wrist. You remember the scar before you remember the man? It was shown once flickering security footage pulled from a gas station camera 2 blocks from the crime scene. Blurry, shadowed, but unmistakable. A man walking out of frame at 8:42 p.m., wrist glinting under fluorescent lights. A long diagonal scar slicing down to the thumb. Too old to be new, too faded to be a recent fight. You watched that footage a dozen times and let it go because it didn't match the ex-boyfriend. Wrong height, wrong posture, wrong everything. But now, sitting in your apartment with a glove pulled from your own freezer, a photo that won't stop changing, and a tape of your voice saying words you never said, you realize you dismissed something that maybe wasn't meant to be understood the first time. You check your old files. One name pops up. Once, Raymond Keller, security guard, briefly interviewed, worked in the building next to Camille's, dismissed as unrelated, but he had a scar. You remember now. He held out his hand for the detective's card, and you caught it just for a second, like a piece of punctuation on a sentence no one finished. You look him up, current address listed, but disconnected. Last known residence, 74 Holloway. You drive there. The house is vacant. Windows smashed, mail piled up on the steps. The kind of place that tells you no one left. It was just never returned to. You slip through the gate. The front door is ajar. Inside dust, peeling wallpaper, old memories, discarded like dead batteries. But on the coffee table, untouched by time or wind, sits a photograph. Camille, laughing, head thrown back, hair across her cheek. You turn it over. Written in looping handwriting, "I didn't mean to watch her that long." You search the house. In the bathroom, the mirror is cracked, just like hers. In the bedroom closet, a pile of journals, mostly blank, except one, dated the night of the murder. She looked right at me tonight, like she knew, like she was already gone. You flip to the back cover, scrawled along the cardboard inside flap. I saw her open the door. He wasn't alone. You freeze. You knew, but pretended you didn't, because you wanted the narrative clean. Woman, dead, ex-boyfriend, alibi, the end. But there was a man outside her building that night, a man with a scar, and now that man is gone. You check the drawer next to the mattress. Inside a single yellow envelope, labeled for the one who remembers too late. You open it. Inside, another photo, this one, of you, standing in the hallway outside Camille's apartment, not looking in, just standing there, waiting, watching, like the man with the scar. You drop the photo, back away, because what if you're not the investigator anymore? What if you never were? What if you've been the missing witness all along? Everyone lies, especially the ones with a badge, especially the ones who forget who was standing outside the door, the red thread in her sleeve. You return to her apartment the next morning. No warning, no appointment, no badge. Even you left that behind because you're not here to investigate anymore. You're here to remember. She opens the door like she expected you, as if time didn't pass, as if she left the lock undone not by accident but invitation. She says nothing, just steps aside. You enter. The place hasn't changed. The same pale walls, same ticking clock, same couch, with its carefully folded blanket that no one uses. But there's something in the way she's dressed today. A beige sweater, thick knit, too warm for the weather, and just at the cuff, near her wrist, a frayed piece of red thread. You know the color. You saw it wrapped around Camille's neck in the crime scene photos, not tightly, loosely, like part of a scarf or a torn garment. And here it is now, threaded from this woman's sleeve. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You sit across from her. She doesn't offer coffee this time. Maybe she knows you won't drink it. You say, "I need to ask you something." She nods, waiting. You said you didn't see Camille that day, that you hadn't spoken in months. I hadn't, she says. Then why was her blood on your stairwell? Her fingers twitch. Why was a photo of her found in a house that used to belong to Raymond Keller? She blinks. Slowly. Who? You lean forward. He saw you. Said you weren't alone when you opened the door. She smiles then, soft, sympathetic, like she's seeing something tragic in you. Memory is a funny thing, she says. Sometimes we think we were outside the story, just watching. She lifts her hand, as if adjusting her sleeve, and you see it again. That red thread, deliberate, tucked into the weave, like someone sewed it in to carry a secret. You reach forward and gently take her wrist. She doesn't pull back. You turn it. The inside of her forearm is bare, except for a faint mark, a scar, not old, barely healed, same shape, same direction, same placement as the man with the scar, but on her. You release her hand, stand slowly. She watches you, patient. You whisper, you weren't outside the story either. No, she says, calm, but you still think you were. You walk toward the mirror in her hallway, the one near the bathroom door, and in the reflection, Camille, clear as day, standing behind her, eyes open, not accusing, just watching, like she's waiting for you to remember the next part. You turn, the woman's gone. So is the couch. So is the table. You're standing in an empty apartment. No furniture, no clock, no warmth. The lease file says it's been vacant for weeks. You're not breathing. You're not sure if you forgot how. You open your hand. That red thread, still there, wrapped around your fingers, tight. Everyone lies, especially the ones who stitch themselves into someone else's story, especially the ones who don't realize it's already theirs. The scratch on the inside of the door. You retrace your steps, not in miles, in moments. You return to the scene not as the investigator, not even as the witness, but as the person left out of their own memory. Camille's building looms taller today. You stand at the base of it as if it might lean in and whisper what it saw. The door at the top of the stairs, hers was replaced weeks ago. The report says there was damage, foul play not suspected. But you remember the original, heavy oak, paint chipped near the bottom. No mention in the case file of the scratch. But you remember it now? Inside the door, just below the handle, a long diagonal nail mark gouged deep enough to catch a fingernail and pull it backward. You climb the stairs slowly. Every step echoes like a verdict. There's a new tenant now. You talked your way in. He doesn't care why you're here. Doesn't ask why you brought your own tools. You open the door. Inside, everything's changed, but the layout's the same. You cross the threshold and walk straight to where the original door once stood. You pull up the file photos on your phone. Zoom, enhance. There, a faint crescent etched below the knob. You compare the height to Camille's file. Matches. She would have scratched it, trying to get out. But she wasn't locked in. She opened the door. She knew the person. She let them in. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You kneel. Run a gloved finger along the inner edge of the frame. There, dried blood. Just inside the hinge. Hidden in the shadow where the light never touches. You collect a sample, carefully. It flakes like truth, crumbling under its own weight. The landlord swore no one reported a struggle. But then again, the landlord didn't remember renting the apartment to you either. You rise slowly, staring down the hall toward the bathroom. The mirror was replaced too. But when you flick off the lights, your reflection stays. Even in the dark, you move left. It doesn't. You breathe. It doesn't. You hear a whisper, not a voice, a sound, fabric tearing. You turn. No one. You flip the light back on. The reflection is back to normal, but your eyes, they're red, not from crying, from blood. You lift your hand and find a single scratch on your palm. Diagonal, fresh, same direction, same depth. You didn't notice it before. You don't remember getting it, but it's there. You take one last look around the apartment. The air tastes like copper and secrets. You leave, but not before slipping a note under the bathroom mirror. 4 words. I saw you too. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones, especially the ones who leave the door open and forget what they let inside. She doesn't cry the right way. You meet her again, not in the apartment because now you're not even sure it ever belonged to her. You find her at a cafe, the kind with soft jazz playing over tinny speakers and a chalkboard menu no one changes. She's already seated when you arrive, hands folded on the table. Untouched tea, steaming like it knows it's not going to be drunk. She sees you and smiles, polite, not warm, like a stranger who's already memorized your funeral speech. You sit. She doesn't speak right away. Just studies you like she's wondering what version of you showed up today. The detective, the ghost, the one who forgets, or the one who finally starts to remember. You ask her a question you've asked before, only this time with a different tone. Why didn't you cry when they told you she was gone? She blinks. I did. She says. You shake your head. You made the sounds, but you watched us while you did it. Her fingers tense. Just barely. You continue. Real grief blinds you. Yours looked like a performance review. She exhales, a small puff of steam disappearing into the air between you. You're confusing grief with guilt, she says. One folds you inward, the other makes you check the exits. You stare at her, because that's not something a regular person says. That's something a witness says, or a suspect, or both. You reach into your coat and place a small envelope on the table. Inside is a photo, the one of her at Camille's apartment door, time-stamped, enhanced, clean. She doesn't open it. She doesn't have to. Instead, her eyes tear up, finally, but not like you expect. Her tears don't fall. They pool, held back, curated, controlled. You watch closely, because this is the moment. You want to see if the mask cracks, but what you see instead is worse. It doesn't crack. It shifts, like a second skin, sliding slightly out of alignment. She lifts her sleeve. Red thread again. A new fray. Same color. Camille's color? You say? You're not crying for her. She shrugs. No, I'm crying for you. That catches you off guard. You say nothing. She sips her tea. Finally, winces. Still too hot. She whispers, then adds, like the blood was. You blink. What? But she's already standing. Tea untouched again. She sets something on the table. A key. 408. You don't touch it. You don't need to. You know where it leads. You check the photograph again. This time your face is in it. Behind her. Half turned. Out of focus. But undeniably you. You stare at her retreating figure through the window. She doesn't look back. She doesn't need to. She knows what you saw. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You stare at the key. It glints in the sunlight, like it wants to be turned. Everyone lies, especially the ones who cry just enough to make you believe they still feel something. The handwriting on the wall. You don't go home. You go to the station instead. Not as an officer. Not tonight. Tonight, you're just someone trying to solve a crime that might have started inside you. You slip into evidence room B after hours. No badge, no permission, just muscle memory and guilt working the lock. You find Camille's case box marked inactive, status resolved. You carry it to the long table in the middle of the room and open it like it might hiss photos, transcripts, personal effects, and one overlooked item you remember from the original catalog. Note recovered from victim's apartment fridge door, held with magnet. They dismissed it as unrelated, probably hers, just a scribble. But now, under the flickering light of a too quiet evidence room, you pull it out and you know better because you've seen this handwriting before. Her handwriting. The woman with the red thread. The woman who cries only when it suits the scene. You place the note beside a copy of her journal entry from her first witness interview, something no one else cared to notice. Same slanted script, same curved ease, same hesitant loop before every lowercase L. The fridge note reads, "If I forget, remind me tea at 8:32, shower by 9 or 10, asleep by 9:30, a to-do list now, an alibi." Written before the crime. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You grab your phone, you take a photo, you send it to your encrypted archive. And when you look again, something's different. The note has smudges now. Red, not ink. You hold it up to the light. A bloody thumbprint overlapping the last line. Not hers, Camille's. You compare it to her autopsy ink prints. Match, which means Camille saw the note, maybe even tried to tear it down, but didn't, or couldn't. Maybe she knew what it meant. Maybe she was trying to tell you all along, this wasn't just a murder, it was a script, and someone followed it down to the second. You glance at the wall. Something catches your eye. The old whiteboard, erased weeks ago, has faded marker still bleeding through. A line Camille once said during the trial, quoted in her statement, dismissed as grief speak. You read it aloud. "She made me say the time." You back away slowly. You remember the interview. Camille mentioned it once, the woman who kept asking her to repeat herself, to say what time she arrived, what time she left. You thought it was an overzealous friend, a neighbor. But what if it was her? The one with the practice tears and the missing time? What if Camille knew she was being written out of her own timeline and tried to leave the script behind on the fridge? A plea disguised as a list, but the story got cleaned, the lines redacted, the key players reassigned. You pack everything into your coat. Your hands are cold. The kind of cold that doesn't come from air conditioning. It comes from proximity to something so too close to truth. You leave the evidence room, past the mirror in the hallway, and again your reflection lags, not broken, just rewinding in your hand. The key from the cafe glints once more, 408, and for the first time, you realize it's not a room, it's not a locker, it's a minute, a skipped one, a lost one, the one everyone forgot to question. A second voice on the tape. The key burns in your pocket the way certain thoughts burn behind your eyes quietly, persistently, endlessly. You find yourself in your car again, but you're not driving. You're listening to a recording you'd almost deleted. Camille's last phone call, recovered from backup, officially logged as unintelligible background noise, but something always felt off about that. Tonight, you hear it differently. The tape begins with Camille's voice, tight and frantic. "He's outside the building. I saw him again. I think he saw me too." Then static. Then a second voice, faint, almost a whisper, but distinct. "Don't forget your alibi." You pause the playback, rewind 10 seconds, play again. Same phrase, same chilling calm. Not Camille, not the ex, not you. It's her. The woman with the red thread, the scar, the too perfect memory. She wasn't calling for help. She was calling to record something, to anchor a moment, and the other voice was there to remind her of the lines. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You isolate the audio, run it through a filter app you stole from tech support. The whisper becomes clearer. You transcribe it in real time. No one will believe her. They'll think it was panic. Just say it again. Say 8:32. Say it like you mean it. You feel it like a needle. Under your ribs, Camille wasn't reciting her timeline. She was being coached, and somewhere in that moment she realized it. You hear it in the silence that follows. 3 seconds. No words. Just her breathing. Heavy. Confused. Like a woman whose mouth is forming a different version of the truth and realizes someone else already wrote it for her. You fast forward to the last few seconds of the call. Another voice. Muffled. Not Camille. Not the whisper. It's you. Camille. Are you still there? Static. You don't remember making that call, but your voice is unmistakable. You didn't investigate this case. You were inside it. And somehow, you forgot. You press stop. The car is too quiet now. So quiet. You hear your own heartbeat like a ticking clock. And suddenly, you remember what she said at the cafe. You still think you were outside the story. The glove, the photograph, the handwriting, the clock that won't keep time. It was never about catching a killer. It was about erasing a witness. You step out of the car and walk, instinct pulling you like a tide. Back to the scene. Camille's building looms again, not as architecture now, but as evidence. You reach into your pocket, pull out the 408 key, hold it up to the door. It doesn't fit. You try the mailboxes, the stairwell lock, the basement, none of them. But then you remember, 408 was never a place. It's a time. You check your watch. 8:07. You wait. Wait until it ticks to 8:08. Then 8:09. Then the minute that doesn't exist on any of the timelines. Mambo 10 no. 8:43. The cursed time. You wait. And when it strikes 8:43, the lights in the building flicker. Just once. But the door unlocks on its own. You knew, but pretended you didn't. And now, the building remembers you. Her dog won't go near the closet. You enter the building at 8:43 on the dot. No resistance, no hesitation. As if the door was waiting for its cue. You ascend the stairs carefully, the air thick with the hush of remembered violence. Each step echoes like a skipped heartbeat. Nothing creaks, but everything feels like it should. You pause, outside the apartment. Not hers anymore, not anyone's. Vacant, forgotten. But the carpet just outside the door is marked small dark smudges that didn't get replaced. Faint circles. Pause. You push the door open. No lock this time. Inside hollow silence. Stale air, holding its breath. But there, in the center of the room, is something new. A dog. Small, black, curled in on itself, whimpering, collar clinking with each twitch. You freeze. You recognize the collar tag. Camille's. She never mentioned a dog in the report. You kneel. Reach gently. The dog doesn't snap, doesn't growl, just trembles. You whisper her name. The dog opens one eye, then turns its gaze to the hall closet. You follow. You knew, but pretended you didn't. The closet door is shut. The dog whines, not in pain, in warning. You step toward it. The air near the closet is colder than the rest of the room. Not air-conditioned, vacuumed, like something inside is pulling time inward. You reach for the knob. The dog backs into the kitchen, tail tucked. You open the door. At first, there's only darkness, then a single, flickering bulb dying overhead, and beneath it, a scarf, red, tangled and damp, still wet somehow. Despite the room's dryness, you bend down, lift it slowly, and see what was buried beneath it. A torn page from Camille's diary. You unfold it. The ink is blurred, but readable. She said she'd protect me. Said no one would believe me if it came from my mouth. So she wrote the story down for me. You blink. There's a second line. But what if the one telling the story forgets they are in it too? You sit back on your heels, breath caught. You were never supposed to find this. And yet, it's been waiting. You glance behind you. The dog is gone. Just the echo of its nails tapping across the floor. You step out of the closet, lay the scarf on the table. It stains the wood red. Another stain catches your eye. In the grain, darker than the rest. You pull a knife from your bag, scrape gently. Blood. Old. The reports never mention blood in the kitchen because no one found it, because someone cleaned around it, not over it, because someone knew the scene needed to look clean, but not sterile, just innocent enough to pass the test. You examine the scarf again. It's not Camille's. It's the other woman's, the one with the red thread, the one who cried when you finally saw through her smile. The dog returns, sits next to you. This time, it doesn't shake. It looks at the table and waits. You check your phone. New message, no name, just coordinates. Attached is a note. You buried the wrong version. You check the coordinates, a park, 5 blocks west, and you remember something. That's where the ex-boyfriend said he was headed that night. Where he said Camille asked to meet him but then never showed. You shut the closet, look back at the scarf, the blood, the page, and the dog, which now stares directly at your reflection in the black mirror of the microwave. Not barking, not growling, just watching. The park where memory misfires. The coordinates lead you to a narrow stretch of parkland tucked between 2 office buildings. You've been here before, but never this late, and never with this kind of weight dragging behind you like a soaked coat. It's silent now. No laughter from nearby bars, no rustling joggers, just the hiss of wind sliding through a playground built for people who don't come here anymore. You scan the trees. Each one looks familiar, too familiar, like they've appeared in a dream you didn't know was repeating. You step into the grass. It crunches underfoot, dry and brittle despite the mist. At the base of the tallest tree, you find something waiting, a tape recorder, old, bulky, the kind used for stakeouts in the 90s. It shouldn't be here, but it is, and the play button has been pressed already. It clicks, whirs, then a voice. Camille, clear, unfiltered. He said we had to meet when no one would listen, that the story needed 2 voices. I think he meant you. You freeze, because she's not talking to her ex. She's talking to you. The next voice is yours, but not the version you remember. It's slower, colder. I told you, don't change the time. Don't add your own lines. Camille responds, her voice cracking now. I don't want to be a character in her story. And then silence. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You checked the recorder. The tape's end has been sloppily cut and taped back together. A message carved into the plastic casing with something sharp. You said it better the first time. You back away slowly. The memory begins to flicker. You remember walking Camille here. Not officially, Not professionally, personally. You sat on this very bench. She told you she felt watched. You told her she was imagining things, but you didn't believe that. You just needed her to keep the version she gave, because there was already a story being written by someone else, and she was deviating from the script. You hear a twig snap behind you. You spin. No one, but something lies in the grass now. A boot print facing yours, pressed into the dirt like someone was just there. You kneel, photograph it, size 10.5, same as yours. You check your own soles, same pattern. You stand slowly, because it was yours, and you don't remember standing there. Everyone lies, especially the ones who let themselves be written into someone else's confession, especially the ones who convinced a victim they weren't one. You checked the last photo Camille sent you before she died. A blurry image of a notebook, mostly illegible, but at the bottom is a line underlined twice. The blood will remember who made the lie real. You pocket the recorder. It clicks on again. No one touched it. And one last whisper escapes. Are you ready to be written out too? The bench is now empty, but your reflection shivers in the window of a parked car across the path. And this time, it turns before you do. The photograph that took itself. You don't remember taking it, but it's there, tucked between your glove box manuals and an expired vehicle registration. You find it when you get back to your car, hands trembling, unsure what you're even looking for. The envelope isn't marked, just sealed, dusty, quiet. But when you slide the photo out, everything inside you goes still. It's a picture of you, standing on Camille's apartment stairwell at 8:43 p.m. Your face is turned slightly, just enough to make out the expression. And it's not confusion, it's not concern, it's calm, neutral, expected. You flip the photo over. 3 words, written in the exact same handwriting from the evidence board. Note, this is Act 2. You knew, but pretended you didn't, because deep down, you felt it for a while. This isn't just a murder, it's a performance. And now, you're realizing you weren't the director. You weren't even the lead. You were cast without consent, and someone else is holding the script. Your phone buzzes. New message. No name, no number. Just a video. You hit play. The timestamp in the corner. 8:43 p.m. Camille's building. The camera is placed at a sharp angle high up, like from a tree or lamppost. You see her door. You see yourself stepping into frame. You knock. She opens. She says something, but there's no audio. Then a second figure enters the frame. From the stairwell shadows, you freeze the video. You enhance. The figure is her, the woman with the red thread, standing behind Camille, and behind you, 2 steps removed from the truth. She never said she wasn't there. She just said you were. You scrub forward in the video. Camille's face changes. She looks past you. She sees the woman. And then the door slams. The screen glitches. Static. And the video ends. But your reflection lingers in the black screen. Expressionless. Exactly like in the photo. The same minute. From 2 angles. 2 stories told at once. Which means someone was documenting this before it happened. Which means someone knew you'd forget. You slide the photo back into its envelope. Mark the back with the date today, just in case you need to prove it tomorrow. You drive to the precinct, but halfway there, you stop, because you remember something. Camille's diary mentioned a photo, one she said shouldn't exist. A picture of her on the night of the murder, in the scarf that was never recovered. You pull up her digital files, open the discarded media folder. There it is, photo, 843A. JPEG. You open it. Camille, standing by the door. She's smiling. Behind her, through the reflection of the hallway mirror, there's movement. A hand, raised mid-gesture, the edge of a leather glove, and on the wall behind it, scrawled in lipstick, barely visible under the flash, the one telling the story forgets first. You shut your laptop, you close your eyes, and for a brief second, everything goes silent in a way that feels final, like a curtain falling. Everyone lies, especially the ones who think they're gathering evidence, when they've really just been following directions. The closet. That wasn't on the blueprint. You return to Camille's building one last time, not because you have new evidence, but because something is missing, something structural. You dig up the architectural plans filed with the city, the blueprints from when the building was first constructed in 1952. You trace the hallway. Camille's apartment is listed clearly. 2 bedrooms, 1 kitchen, 1 hall closet. But here's the twist. The current unit has 2 closets. The second one where you found the red scarf and the diary page. It's not on the blueprint. It was added later. No permits, no official work order. Just appeared. Sometime between the building's last inspection and the murder. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You returned to the apartment. This time, you're not subtle. You pry the door open with a crowbar, every creak screaming through the walls. Inside, everything is still. Dust hangs like suspended memory. You walk straight to the second closet, the one that wasn't supposed to exist. You trace the inside with your flashlight. Drywall seams, fresh wood, newer than the rest of the apartment. You knock. It sounds hollow. You press your ear to the wall. You hear something faint, not words, breathing. You pause, hold your breath. It continues, steady, measured. From behind the wall, you grab your tools, begin pulling back the plaster, one layer at a time, until a square of blackness opens before you, cold. Unnatural air breathing back at you. Inside, barely lit by your flashlight's tremble, is a chair, and sitting on it, a recorder, identical to the one in the park. Next to it, pinned to the wall with a rusted nail, a mirror, not a regular one, a piece of mirrored glass, jagged at the corners, like it was salvaged from a crash. Your reflection stares back at you, and beside it, another, not quite your face, similar, but off, expression wrong, mouth curled into something that doesn't belong to you. And on the wall, written in soot, Act P begins when you stop running. You step inside the hidden room. The air presses against your chest. You pick up the recorder. Hit play. Camille's voice again. If you're hearing this, you found it. That means you didn't stop looking. Good. That's what she's afraid of. A pause, then a shiver in her breath. She keeps writing new endings, keeps changing who we are in the story. First, I was the friend. Then I was the jealous one. Then I was nothing. You hear your voice, faintly, in the background, but not the you from now, the other you, the one who just stood outside the door and let the lines be rewritten. Camille's voice again. She can't kill me if I stay remembered. That's the rule. You know that. You made it. The tape clicks off. You stare at the mirror. The reflection shifts again, and this time, the other version of you lifts a hand and waves. Everyone lies, especially the ones who try to forget what they built, especially the ones who built a closet to hide themselves. You step out of the hidden space, close the door behind you, but the breathing doesn't stop. The basement file that wasn't yours. You descend into the basement of the precinct under the cover of night. No lights, no echo of steps except your own. Down here, the walls breathe, old cinder blocks sweating secrets and mold. This part of the building is archived but not indexed. A graveyard of closed cases, sealed lockers, and things no one wants found. You reach the last row, locker 17B. Your hands hesitate because the last time you were here, it was for someone else's secret. But the key from the photo envelope, it clicks into this lock like it was meant for your hand. Inside one accordion folder, unlabeled. You open it, it's filled with files you never compiled, notes you never wrote, photos you never took. Yet they're all in your handwriting, signed in your name, printed on department letterhead. The first page is a psychological profile. Subject, C. Varnell Camille Investigator. Your name. But the notes are damning. They describe her as volatile, emotionally unstable, a threat to herself and others. Every word is calculated, every line designed to discredit. But you never wrote this. You flipped the page. Interview transcript between Camille and someone labeled simply as W. The voice isn't yours. It's hers. The woman with the red thread. The one who moved behind the mirrors, behind the memories. The one who's rewriting everything. Camille, I want to speak with the real officer. The one who first interviewed me. He's not available anymore. Camille, why not Dabikida? Because he's part of the narrative now. He thinks he started the story, but really, he's just trying to remember the ending I already wrote. You dropped the folder because you knew, but pretended you didn't. You open your phone and check your call log. There's a number saved under your name. You called yourself 6 times, each time within seconds of when Camille's testimony changed, each call lasting less than 20 seconds. You didn't answer. You don't remember ringing. But something does. You hear a creak behind you. Turn, no one. But on the locker, next to 17B, written in thick black ink, there's still time to switch roles. You back away slowly. The air is heavier now. You grab the folder, pull the photographs out. One sticks to the back. It wasn't meant to be seen. You peel it loose. A grainy black and white still. Security cam timestamp the night of Camille's death. It's her standing outside her door. But something is off. She's staring directly at the camera. Not scared. Not frantic. Knowingly. And just before the footage cuts, she lifts a single finger to her lips. Shh. You return to the main floor. Hallway lights flicker once, then stabilize. But as you walk past the interview rooms, one of them glows. You look through the window. There's someone inside. It's you, wearing your old badge. Same coat, same expression as the photo. Across the table, Camille. But she's not afraid. She's smiling, like she knows how this ends. You blink, they're gone. Just an empty room again. But on the table, under the reflection of the overhead light, a red thread tied around a pen. Everyone lies, especially the ones who think they're documenting the truth, when really, they're just reading lines from someone else's play. The voice that used your mouth. You don't sleep, you try, you close your eyes, you lie still, but you hear it again, your own voice, whispering from somewhere it shouldn't be. Inside the walls, inside the tape, inside you. The echo keeps looping a phrase you don't remember saying. It's better this way. She wasn't supposed to remember. You stare at the ceiling. That same phrase appeared on Camille's case transcript, an offhand line, attributed to you during a post-interview summary. You never said it. But it's there, in black and white, signed, approved, official, like you've been talking in your sleep and someone's been taking notes. You check your phone's voice memo app. There's a file you didn't open before. No title, just a timestamp, 8:43 p.m. You hit play and you speak, but the voice isn't quite right. It carries your rhythm, your tone, but it's lacking weight, like a replica without bones. You knew what she meant when she said the time was off, but you let her talk until it broke her. Then, a different voice, hers, the woman. We all choose our roles eventually. Victim, witness, writer. You slam the phone down, something cracks. Not the screen, the room. The light dims, just for a second. And in the reflection of the black screen, you see yourself again, but not as you are now. You see you, seated at the interview table, nodding as Camille cries. You see you, pocketing a scarf that was never admitted into evidence. You see you, erasing timestamps from files. You press your hand to your mouth because you weren't just following the script. You helped write it, not willingly, not consciously, but somewhere along the line. You started filling in gaps that didn't exist. Maybe she got into your head. Maybe she never had to. You remember the rules Camille whispered in her diary. She only needs you to say it once. Then it becomes true. The lies weren't just told, they were confirmed by you. You get up, drive, no plan, just direction. You arrive at the courthouse at night. It feels like a mausoleum. You enter through the side gate. Old keys still work here. You find the archive room and pull Camille's full trial footage. You load the last day, the day she broke down. At timestamp 2:1843, she stops mid-sentence, looks straight at the camera, then past it, and says, "He's mouthing the words for me again." The judge asks her to repeat. She doesn't, because her eyes lock on you, sitting in the audience, lip-syncing her lines. The record shows she was declared unstable. You blink. Was it real or planted? You rewind, frame by frame. Position to 18 to 42, your mouth is still. But in the corner of the frame, a second figure appears, obscured, blurry, but unmistakably her, the woman with the red thread, watching, mimicking, mouthing the words just before Camille says them. And your eyes, they glance toward her, then toward Camille, and then you nod. You gave permission. The script didn't need you to speak it, only to allow it. Everyone lies, especially the ones who believe they're innocent because they don't remember being guilty, especially the ones who hand off their voice and pretend it wasn't heard. The ink that bled. Through the truth, you return to your apartment. Everything feels rearranged, though nothing's been moved. Drawers are closed, photos in place, but the air smells faintly of vanilla and ash, the same scent as her scarf. You check your journals. You've always kept notes, private ones, unconnected to any official investigation. It was how you tracked your own inconsistencies, your mental footprints. You flip through the latest one. The pages are blank, but your pen marks are there, faint indentations pressed into the paper, like a ghost wrote them with an empty soul instead of ink. You tilt the page under the desk lamp, tracing the groove of invisible text. You rub a pencil across the page. Lines emerge. She asked me to remember the time. I didn't. I smiled instead. Another page. She said not to trust the reflection. I asked whose. She said yours. You knew, but pretended you didn't. The final page bleeds, literally. Ink that wasn't there seeps through from behind, forming a shape, a crude drawing, a face with no mouth, but a heavy red line drawn across the throat. You check your mirror. For the third time this week, your reflection lags behind. Just a beat, enough to let doubt fester. It smiles when you don't. Everyone lies, even mirrors, especially mirrors. Your phone buzzes. Unknown number. You answer. No voice. Just the sound of someone breathing and flipping pages. You listen. You hear your own voice low, distant, like it's being played from a recording. Camille was never the point. She was the consequence. Then the call cuts. You go to the bathroom. You turn on the faucet. The water doesn't run. Instead, something clinks in the drain. You kneel. Use tweezers. Pull it out. A pen, not yours, carved into the barrel in careful etching. Act D4, rewrite. You check your old case notebook again. This time, you notice a small folded insert wedged between pages. You open it. It's a page from a script, formatted like a play. 2 characters. C. Camille and D. Detective U. Stage direction scene. The moment before the confession. C. Will you say it again, even if it isn't true? D. Only if you believe it first. Below the scene. Handwritten in red ink. The audience always forgets who told the first lie. You crumple the page, but the text remains, burned behind your eyelids. You close the notebook, then pause. On the inside back cover, something's been scratched into the leather. Not etched by you, not written by hand, scratched with something sharp. Who gave you the script? You stare at the words, because the truth isn't about who killed Camille. It's about who cast her. You go to your filing cabinet, pull out the original witness roster, redact everything that isn't first-hand. You're down to 3 names. Camille, you. You tear off your own name. Stare at the remaining 2, and underneath, scribbled faintly in pencil, everyone's innocent, until the story chooses a villain. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Now you see the roles, and you're not sure anymore whether you are chasing the killer or covering for your own ghost. The confession that wrote itself. You wake at your desk, not from sleep, but from forgetting. The clock reads 8:43 a.m. Sunlight hits your eyes like an interrogation lamp. The files you were organizing last night are back in the drawer. The red scarf is gone. The pen is gone. But your hand still ink-stained. You open your laptop. It's already on. A Word document stares back at you untitled, unsaved. 176 words. The cursor blinks at the end of a sentence I knew, but I pretended I didn't. The rest is a detailed confession, written in your voice, your cadence, but not your memory. It describes Camille's final hour, how she begged you to help her escape the story, how you told her there's nowhere to run. You're already on page 37. You scroll through the document, Camille's last words, then maybe I'll bleed into the margins. You close the file, but it auto-saves. File name. Her alibi was perfect. You feel something cold on your neck. You turn. No one, but on your wall, the one behind your desk, where the framed citation used to hang, there's now a handwritten message, smudged in what might be ash. We remember what we rehearse. You take your badge from the drawer. It feels heavier. You hold it to the light. Something's etched beneath the serial number. You didn't notice it before. Maybe it was always there. Maybe it wasn't. You walk outside. The world feels too precise. Every car passing at a metered pace. Every person walking with eyes forward. Never meeting yours. You arrive at the courthouse again. Not because you're scheduled to testify, but because something inside you is ready to listen. You ask to pull your own testimony from Camille's case. They say it doesn't exist. You insist. They check. Your name appears nowhere in the file. The folder marked Detective Notes is empty, except for one slip of paper. If the story changes, who do you become? You sit in the empty courtroom, the same seat you occupied during the trial. You stare at the gallery, at the judge's bench, at the echo of Camille's voice still lingering in the acoustics, and you realize you never knew what she was trying to confess because you were too busy trying to deliver your lines. Behind the bench is a painting. You've seen it 100 times. Today, it's different. The figures have no faces. One wears a red scarf, one holds a pen, one mirrors you exactly, and in the corner, almost invisible, a name scrawled in red narrator. You stand, turn, and find her sitting in the back row, the woman with the red thread, not hiding anymore, not rewriting, just watching. She nods once, as if to say, your turn. Everyone lies, especially the ones who think the story ends with the last word, especially the ones who finally realize the story didn't need a killer. It just needed a witness who forgot they were part of it. You leave the courtroom. The door clicks shut behind you. Somewhere, a typewriter starts, and you can't tell anymore if the story's over or just about to begin again. Rain begins to fall. Not the violent kind, just a slow, steady drizzle that coats everything in memory. You drive without knowing where you're going. The city blurs past. Stoplights blink red like warning beacons from another life. Storefronts glow behind fogged glass. Everyone moves like they are on cue. You turn off the radio. The silence is louder. At a crosswalk, you see a girl in a red scarf. She's too young to be Camille, but she turns and smiles at you, like she knows the role you played, and forgives you anyway. You pull over near the water. The river doesn't rush. It just exists, wide and reflective, swallowing lights like secrets. You breathe. For once, it doesn't fog the glass. Inside your coat pocket, the pen, the one etched with Act 4, rewrite, still hums with unspoken weight. But you don't take it out. You don't need to. You're no longer trying to write your way out of the truth. You're just sitting with it. It doesn't matter who wrote the story anymore. What matters is that you remembered enough to know you were in it all along, and that somewhere in the margins, someone else is watching, maybe ready to pick up the thread. The typewriter slows, the last page curls from the machine, and the ribbon dries. No twist, no resolution, just the soft sound of inkless keys echoing into the dark. You lock your doors, you take a deep breath, and you wait for morning, if it comes. End of script. Sleep well and watch your back.